Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Star Wars Alliance. Of course, I'm your host, Clay, and with me, like always, is Katie. Katie, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm great. We got another episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi. We got Miss Marvel, which of course was good. So yeah, I'm very excited. Um Lots of good things coming for Disney Plus, but a lot of good things happen today for Star Wars in terms of Obi-Wan Kenobi. So
I will say this: I wanted to stay up for Obi-Wan Kenobi, so I struggled to do that. Like I was dozing off. I actually have to rewatch this week's Superman and Lois because I was dozing off so much. And then I watched Obi-Wan. I made sure to like stuff my face with some vanilla Oreos to like get the sugar rush of staying up. Because I don't like the chocolate Oreos. I don't like chocolate. That's just something about me.
you don't
And
like chocolate?
no, I thought the GOA knew this. Yeah, this is the one that's
I
probably like
have
the
dark
one.
chocolate M&Ms
Yeah.
like that I'm munching on right now.
See, and the worst thing about M&Ms is when you crunch them, their shell is almost like plastic, so it makes that really weird crunching. It's like it's so gross. Um, so there's that. I didn't watch Miss Marvel until I woke up. Absolutely adored that show. People who are crapping all over it or don't want to watch it, I will say this: actually give it a chance and know that it is essentially, think of a Disney original show within the Marvel universe. That's what it feels like. I really, really dug it. It kind of had like, it gave me Lizzie McGuire vibes, to be completely honest. This isn't a Marvel review,
Yeah.
but I'm just giving that out there because,
That was
you
what
know,
I
uh,
was trying to compare it to.
yeah, it genuinely had like a Lizzie McGuire type, show, vibe. So I will say this: I'm probably gonna be poking, the bear over there with Chris and Brent and saying, "Hey, can I come on your show and review Miss Marvel?" But yeah, had a lot of fun with that. Had a little bit of a headache today, but remember, folks, drink water. So all you guys listening to
Hydrate.
us right now, hydrate. Stop this or go to your kitchen right now or wherever you keep your bottles of water and drink some freaking water. Please. I almost freaking passed out today from not drinking water. So that is it for my little intro there. But we do have the G-Way network. I will go ahead and say this. There is possibly two people planning on showing up tonight. So we will have a fun discussion over Obi-Wan Kenobi episode 4. And then of course, plans have changed a little bit with Brotherhood. We keep on forgetting to bring it up on the weekends to record, but this time we are going to record it this weekend. We are really looking forward to reviewing that book. But let's go ahead and jump into the G-Way network plugs. Of course, Star Wars Alliance is, of course, a part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance network. What that means is that we just have one giant podcast family. Hashtag Vin Diesel, hashtag Fast Five, hashtag Fast Franchise. I lost track there. Too many hashtags. So of course we have 8 shows over the course of 7 days a week. Starting off each week is a slice of film and Ranger Alliance. This week was Ranger Alliance. It is jail time. We talked about the arrest of Austin St. John, Jason David Frank possibly leaving Power Rangers in the dust, never coming back to it, and some more Power Rangers news. It was a lot of fun. We had the entire crew there, Jake and Joe. And we are going to have another episode next week due to the fact that Slice of Film had 2 episodes. We're going to have 2 episodes, and so that way we were right on track. But don't worry, guys. Slice of Film will be back the very next Monday with Jurassic World Dominion. Is that the title?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it
Now
is.
I plan on watching it. I don't know if I will watch it in time for the review. So I am going to get a little spoiled by it, which is fine. But I've seen the reviews are a little on the fence, so I'm going to be very interested to hear what, of course, Taylor has to say, our
Yep.
dinosaur loving friend over there at Geekverse. So that starts us off every single week. Of course, we also have DC Alliance superhero discussions, Star Wars Alliance right here with us, Marvel Alliance, of course, a walk through the multiverse, and also World's Finest True Believers. Now, World's Finest True Believers is a monthly show. Chris takes a lot of time doing some research for those shows, finding people to host with him. So go ahead and check that out. The last episode for that show was I Killed Giants. Did not know that there was a movie of that graphic novel. So go check both of those out, and then go check out the show, World's Finest True Believers. Now, with that, Star Wars Alliance, DC Alliance, and Marvel Alliance all go live here on the Geek First YouTube channel. Starting off with DC on Monday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Here at Star Wars Alliance, we usually go live at 7 Eastern Standard Time. But of course, because of me not feeling well and some other plans kind of shifting our time, we had to go live later today. But usually it is 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then Marvel on Thursday nights at 9:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Those three shows also have their own solo feeds, so go check those out. Or you can stay right here in the GUA and listen to all of us. We greatly appreciate it. Now, this show is going to have ads. What that means is you're going to get ads. It's simple as that. Sometimes they're in the beginning, middle, end. They're going to be all over the place, depending on, of course, the episode length. Now, I will go ahead and say this. If you don't like ads, well, you should come join us. We actually have a lot of fun here on the YouTube channel. We have a lively chat usually sometimes. I see two of us right here are already in the in YouTube. Come on. Where's the chat?
Wait.
I see you.
One of those is me.
Oh, well, I guess one then. Gosh, Katie. But other than
Sorry.
that, you can always go to, of course, the Patreon if you don't want to listen to these ads. So we are an ad support network and a listener support network. So if you don't want to listen to those ads, you don't want to go to YouTube, well, you can always just jump right here into our Patreon. It's $1 tier to just say thank you, but the $5 tier gives you the exclusive content as well as the shows that come out early every single week. Now, I know Katie, of course, is doing the Legendary Conversations, where she
Matt
goes
and
and
I are recording comic conversations this weekend.
yes. Now, Legendary Conversations, of course, she has 2 episodes out already, and those go to Legends books that then you do a little bit of research and talk about key points that they have taken into canon and how they can relate to canon and things like that, which I think is really, really cool for everybody who loves canon Star Wars. So, with that, we actually have one of our guests jumping in. Katie, would you like to introduce this gentleman here?
Yes, please welcome to the show, everyone. Rick Shu. He is a geek podcaster. He has worked 11 years at Batman on film and has been on a couple podcasts from there. And he is launching a new show soon-ish. Rick, welcome to the show.
Hey, am I live? How we doing?
Doing good.
Good.
Awesome. Yeah, I've got a new show coming in. I don't know the name of it yet. So we're going to do Name That Podcast. $500. I'm not kidding. I'll Venmo it to you. It's 3 of us. So we're talking about all things pop culture. I would still Fanboy Garage because that's like the coolest name, but I can't. So
Aaron, you're great. We promise.
excuse me. No, it's a great name. Great podcast. Great guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yes,
We're looking forward to hearing your thoughts on, of course, episode 4 of Kenobi. We will get to that very, very shortly. But tell us a little bit more about yourself for those who don't know you.
Well, I mean, I've got 5 kids, my wife and I between us, and no, I'm going to get on to that. So professionally, I'm a restaurant bar guy. We got ownership in pubs for the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years. I do restaurant software day job. And then I'm just at heart a big geek. My two most passionate franchises and properties are Star Wars and Batman by leaps and bounds. And Batman being my favorite fictional character of all time, and Star Wars being my favorite franchise of all time. I spent a little over 11 years over at Batman on Film. Those guys are like family to me. I didn't leave with any ire or ill will or anything like that. I'm just ready to kind of just do my own thing. I had a satellite show that I launched with those guys about a year ago. And if you listen to the 6 or 7 episodes that I hosted for that, or even over the years I hosted satellite episodes, but the official show, that's basically what this new show is going to be. And I have Courtney Cheek, who's a fellow actress and friend of mine. She's just amazing. She's a big Disney geek. I mean, everything Marvel, Star Wars, Disney proper, you name it, Pixar, probably even National Geographic, knowing her. And then Brian Chatlin, who's another fellow thespian with us. And he's also a professional photographer, all around badass. And I had him do a lot of video reviews over at Batman on Film for many years. So if you followed BOF and my time there, you probably saw Brian. And we're super excited. It's going to be fun. We've done some live streams with the same software you guys are using here. We won't talk about that on camera. That'll bore the audience. But we're testing it out and hoping to launch the show. But we need a name. I've named children in restaurants. I can't name a damn podcast.
I will say this: naming a podcast is probably like it. Of course, it's the most important thing. It's a thing people are going to look you up by. You got to make sure that it's catchy.
Yeah.
And then you go to the logo. You got to make sure you pick the right colors. It's your brand. So I completely understand the frustration that comes with that.
And by the way, I a lot of equipment crapped out on me recently. Just a quick side note: you guys look great. I know I'm just on my Dell computer camera here, but I actually put on Twitter the other day, what camera are you guys all using? And I got a bunch of feedback. But Katie, you may have responded to that. So just hopefully next time.
I'm using a Spettle, I think.
Well, hopefully the next time, if there's a next time, I hope there is, that we're together. I look more professional. I just want to just at least there's a reason behind it. All right. Cool.
Good.
So we're here to talk about Van Halen.
Well, before we jump into Kenobi, Katie actually found out some news, some rumors about some Star Wars stuff that we want to jump in here real quick before we jump into the review.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, sorry.
No, I was gonna say, Clay, can I ask you one quick question before we get started here?
Yeah.
Are you in Texas?
Yes, I am.
Where are you at?
I am in a very small town called La Crosse, Texas. That is about 30 minutes outside of San Antonio. It's very, very small. It's where I grew up. But
nice.
I usually tell people, hey, yeah, it's San Antonio proper.
Sure. That's amazing. I'm in Texas as well. Good to know. Perfect.
Very cool. Very cool.
All right. Sorry, guys. I just had to ask that. So,
You're
Rumor
good.
Mill. What do we got on Rumor Mill?
So the Disney Insider podcast dropped today, and they said that they have heard that Darth Bane, Darth Revan, and Darth Nihilus, I think is the pronunciation, will all make some sort of appearance in Star Wars Acolyte. And Acolyte is the Leslie Headland show, I think is her. No, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the showrunner's name. Sorry, y'all. The showrunner, she's been great. All of her interviews so far have led in a good direction for the feeling of Acolyte, but this could be an interesting development because we do know from The Rise of Skywalker that Acolytes are what Palpatine's minions are called on Exegol. Like high-ranking people on Exegol are called acolytes. They're Sith acolytes. So it's an interesting turn of events. I think we all knew it was going to lead into some sort of dark side experience, but to have those 3 prominent Sith Lords involved and bringing them fuller into canon, because Bane has already been made canon, Revan has not yet, and I don't think Nihilus has been made canon yet. But that could be an interesting turn of events, especially, Clay, since we had talked previously if Bane was going to make an appearance in Acolyte.
Yeah, we talked about it very, very briefly. And my big question was, okay, are they going to scrunch this timeline down canonically and make it to where they're going to physically be appearing? And the one caveat that I didn't really think about when, asking that question and having that conversation is we could have flashbacks. This could totally make sense. Is having flashbacks. And one thing that I said in our Star Wars Alliance chat earlier today is that a lot of the Disney Plus Star Wars shows, of course, have started to play a lot with flashbacks. We saw it in, of course, every single show that has shown Order 66 again, of course. But even in the most recent, I believe it was technically the Book of Boba Fett, in the showing of what happened to Mandalore and everything else
Mhm.
with all the Mandalorians. We got that like really cool like Terminator Judgment Day type of scene, which was a flashback. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, didn't even dawn on me, but we could legitimately get a flashback history lesson, per se, for these characters, Bane, Revan, and how did you pronounce the? Is it Nihilus
Nihilus?
or Nihilus? Okay,
It's
Nihilus.
Nihil and then us on the end. So Nihilus.
Okay.
But you know what works for flashbacks as well? Holocrons. They were specifically made to provide lessons to the future of the Jedi, the Sith. So we could easily see holocrons from these Dark Lords. Rick, what you got? Like, what's your thoughts?
Well, I'll just say this kind of more of a 20,000 foot of perspective versus this specific rumor is that in terms of flashbacks, yes, in Boba Fett, there was a lot. It wasn't just Mando stuff. It was also just his life. We think about so many of those episodes where him reflecting with the bucket tank and he's having
The
his flashbacks.
flashback this.
Yeah, exactly. And we saw that, not to jump ahead, we saw that even a little bit in episode 4 of Obi-Wan. And I'll jump, I'll go a little further with that as we get into the conversation about Obi-Wan specifically. What I do know is that for me, just as a general statement, and I might get a lot of hate for this, I don't think Star Wars has ever been better in live action ever. And I say that as someone who loves the entire franchise. So everything that's going on right now, this labor of love, is very intoxicating and addicting, and it's amazing, and I love it. So whatever they decide to do, I'm going to trust them with these characters, Bane, what have you. Whether they show up or not, who knows? My guess is that I think everything is on the table, right? I have a friend whose cousin is in Lucasfilm marketing in some capacity, whatever, and she doesn't like share with him like stuff that she shouldn't be sharing him with. But what we do know, we get enough information in terms of just ambiguous, like you guys are been fans because he and I grew up together. He's like, you guys have been fans for since you were in 1980. Just be prepared, like not just with the what's going to happen with Obi-Wan, but who's going to pop up where, what characters, things in canon, things that might even be in some novel that's not even considered canon anymore. They might even tap in and kind of reintroduce somebody in that capacity as well, supposedly. Who knows? I just know that I'm along for the ride. And so far, yeah, it's been, Star Wars. There's wonky, bumpy stuff from time to time. It happens. But just overall, I have a lot of confidence in Lucasfilm. I say Lucasfilm specifically, by the way, because Disney haters like to say Disney. I'm like, okay, fine. Don't like Disney or whatever. But this is still Lucasfilm, and Lucas handed his franchise down to people that he trusted and that he mentored, and I think that's also part of why it is what it is right now for me, anyway, personally. So, anyway, there you go.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely get that sentiment. Now, Katie and myself have given our fair share of hot takes when it comes to the era of Star Wars that is Disney and everything else, especially, coming down to the wire of Rise of Skywalker, Mandalorian, and everything else. It does seem like Katie went out there for a second. It's a good thing I didn't wait for her response. But
Y'all, I'm sorry. AT&T is having problems in my neighborhood. Won't be fixed for a couple days. So I may drop out one or two more times the rest of the episode. I do apologize.
All right. Well,
It's live. We're live. It's all good.
yeah. It's all good. And the magic of editing in post is going to be wonderful for that stuff. But yeah, I genuinely enjoy this era of Star Wars. Now, as far as like the secretiveness of everything, and like you said with the marketing stuff, like me and Katie do have our hot takes with that also, but we really enjoyed the hell out of Celebration. Like we can give however many hot takes we want, and then once the good news starts rolling in, we're just all giddy and we're screaming. We're have our hands up and everything else. But I still think we're having a good time. One of the last questions that we gave ourselves when it came to that Vanity Fair article with Kathleen Kennedy, one of her last statements was, "No matter what, we need to be having fun. Are we having fun? Yes. Is it taking a lot longer sometimes for that fun to really hit us with how long these productions are taking? A little bit, but we're there. We're still having fun." So, Katie, do you want to go ahead and jump into non-spoiler thoughts on Kenobi?
I think so. Rick, I'm gonna let you go first. Since
So real fast, we're not doing spoilers, or we can.
we're gonna do a quick
going to
non-spoiler.
We're gonna do spoiler free, and then we're gonna jump into spoilers right after that. So
Okay,
that way
got
it gives listeners time to be like, okay, maybe if you are listening to this and you haven't watched the episode yet, we're gonna give you spoiler free, and then you go watch the episode, come back and listen to us, talk spoiler stuff. So
I love it.
And
by the
that'll
way, go ahead. Sorry, Katie.
And that'll give Aaron time to hop on potentially, because he said he was gonna hop on around 9.
Boy, based on our text today. By the way, just side note. So when we did our live show last week, just doing a little rehearsal, I was just goofing off and put Fandom Menace Slayer as my name. I just realized it was there. That was just a joke. That was a joke in privacy. I can't edit it, so we're stuck with it. Oh, well.
It's all good.
It was a funny inside joke. Now it's like on your show. I just noticed. I was like, "What is that?" I was like, "Oh, that's right." Now I can't.
That's awesome.
It's just stuck there because somebody was like, "Hey, you've been going to war." Some people on Twitter. It happens. Phantom Menace Slayer. I was just kidding. Okay, so moving on. So non-spoiler thoughts on Obi-Wan. Well, I'll say this. I just watched it. A little context here for me is that I'm 47 years old. I saw Star Wars in the theater in its quasi-original theatrical release. And here's what I mean by that. It was re-released in the theater in 79, 80 prior to Empire being released in the theater. And that's also the first time it was episode 4, A New Hope. Mm-hmm. And the original release of it was just Star Wars. That's just what it was called, Star Wars. So I saw that in the theater, then I saw Empire. So I go way back, and I've been obsessed with the franchise ever since. Hated the Phantom Menace when it came out. I was also in my 20s, out of college. Yeah, I was literally a year out of college. It was 99. Hated it. Thought Lucas ruined everything. Whatever. Attack of the Clones comes out. Really liked it, which is funny, and I still defend it to this day. It saved the prequels for me. Made me start to kind of retroactively justify and things about the Phantom Menace and then grew to love it. And I do to this day. And of course, Revenge of the Sith is in my top 3 favorite Star Wars movies of all times. So just to give you a little background, right? So when this show was announced, I was thrilled. I've been a Hayden Christensen defender for a long time. And Ewan McGregor, I've always said, is Obi-Wan. Alec Guinness, obviously, Sir Alec Guinness is amazing. Ewan owns that role. And I have not been disappointed thus far. To see Ewan back in the role and just in this mature performance he's giving and beautiful nuance, it's just so great. So here we are, episode 4. So far I've loved it. I thought episode 3 was probably the pinnacle so far. It was like the magnum opus of this thing. It was just, let me get Vader. Greatness. Watched it this morning. Thought it was good. Felt a little deflated. I was like, okay, that's not quite what I expected. And as Star Wars fans, we oftentimes write these things in our head, right? And then we don't like what we see.
Yep.
Especially with this particular franchise. We do it all the time, right? But this franchise, we're terrible
yes,
at it. All of us.
Yes.
Myself included, by the way. I'm as guilty as anybody.
Yeah.
Watched it again an hour ago, and I was watching it, and it ended. I went, I think this is my favorite episode. My only thing is this, and we'll get into this more with spoilers. There's 2 episodes left. I don't see how they wrap this up unless the next 2 episodes are an hour plus. If that's the case, great. And if they do, back that thing right up to A New Hope, just like they did in Rogue One, and it's over. If they do another season, then make it quick, or not make it quick, but like don't do a third. Like, let's not make this too anticlimactic. So that's where I'm at right
Yeah.
now. So I hope I'm not really good at spoiler free stuff. So I hope that sufficed.
No, it definitely does. And I actually have questions for both Katie and you. We actually got a listener question from one of our hosts of the GUA. Chris left us a question earlier today, left it in my DM. So I'll go ahead and read that off later.
Okay, I was like, I didn't see that.
Yeah, no, he messaged me just in case. Because, the Twitter feed gets lost in the shuffle sometimes. And so he's like, you know what? I'm just going to place it right here in the DM. But Katie, go ahead and go next for spoiler free.
So I absolutely loved the nuanced characterization we get in this. We get a lot of callbacks to A New Hope, but also Jedi Fallen Order. Yes, I do know enough about that video game to know there is a lot of parallels. But I really also loved the Riva Leia interactions we get. And that's delving like a little close, but man, Moses Ingram is fantastic. And the writing they gave her for that scene, like, and the way she pulled it off, oh my gosh, I was sitting there going, oh my gosh, that was so beautiful. Like, I was like this close to crying. And some other stuff that's delves a little more spoilery, but I loved some of the callbacks we get, especially to like the Clone Wars. So, or is it, no, it's Rebels. It's Rebels. That's the callback, excuse me. Um, so I'm really excited to delve into spoilers. Clay, what did you think?
So my spoiler free thoughts, and then we'll jump into spoilers because I know we're kind of chomping at the bit here to talk everything that's going on. The very first thing I was going to say is people who haven't played Fallen Order really kind of got left in the dust a little bit in this episode. But I absolutely loved it. As soon as this one particular scene happened, it immediately brought me back to the very anxious Clay playing that PS4 game and my heart just racing. So I love that they're bringing that into it, teasing it because of course spoiler freeze here. We're gonna get into it later, but I love that scene. I really did enjoy the Moses scenes, of course, with Third Sister and Leia. Kind of builds up the character for what Leia is going to be in, of course, the original trilogy. So I liked all of that. And I will say this, I was a little confused at some scenes, but we'll get into it. But I will say this, I was a little bit like it, like I said before, it picked up a lot of the Fallen Order stuff, but it felt like the show was trying to tell me something, and it just kind of went over my head in one part in particular. So I will bring that up when we get to it. But with that, let's go ahead and jump into our spoiler-filled review here. Not going to go scene by scene. We'll kind of jump all over the place, talk about our favorite points, some specific scenes or lines that you guys felt really jumped out at you. But Rick, you are a guest tonight. How do start us off? Where do you want to jump to?
Absolutely. And by the way, I was just sharing our YouTube link on social media. So that's what I was doing. Okay, spoilers. So great. So again, wasn't crazy about it at first. It was the first time I felt that way in the series. Watched it again, going, "Wow, I get it." Let me get the negative out of the way. The negative is actually not a negative for this episode, but it is a negative if it happens again. Okay, so this worked. We know the cliffhanger of the last episode that Leia was in the hands of Riva anyway. Obviously, Obi-Wan had to get her. He did. She's kind of the heart and soul. Their relationship is the heart and soul of this thing, but it's going to run the risk of being, I'll say this word once again. Well, I don't say anticlimactic. That's not quite the right word, actually. But they're going to run the risk of this. They're going to run out of gas with their relationship. Like, I think it's at this point, it's time to retire the Rescue Leia stuff. and maybe even send her home. She's an adorable little girl, and I'm a father of
And I
daughters,
hope
and so what's that?
I hope she I hope they give us like a Princess Leia show with her in it. They need to utilize the ever loving crap out of her.
Isn't she
Like
amazing? It's amazing, and my favorite scene of her is when she's sort of in the torture chamber, and so you guys have never been on a show with me before, so just bear with me. I will go 5 million different places. I promise you that I bring it back. I've got this crazy wicked ADD. It's uncontrollable, but I also control it. So bear with me. And the torture scene, it's her best scene. It's her best work. And it's like anybody that's dogging her as an actor. So I'm like, first of all, she's a little girl. Secondly, are you kidding me? She's amazing. And that scene where she's being tortured is amazing. And the aesthetic of that reminds me of The Force Awakens. It reminds me of The Last Jedi. The aesthetic, the look, even the little chamber that she's in looks like what Rey was in. And then one of the biggest compliments I give this show is how they are tying in the true original trilogies aesthetically. Like, it's jarring. It's one of the things I hated about the Phantom Menace when I saw it. I get it now, by the way, but how just like how lived in and rough and raw and gritty that the original trilogy was, and the planets they inhabited. And then you get over the prequels and it's glossy, it's beautiful, you know what I mean? Like, it was so jarring, it didn't even feel like it was the same universes. And that was kind of the point, because they were in a different time. And now you get that now. It kind of just shows the brilliance of Lucas, by the way. Like, and so
yeah,
it does. And I love Rogue One. I love it. But you had, of course, to be fair, that also backed right up to A New Hope. But still, there were a lot of prequel elements with Bell Organa, for instance. And I was like, it's weird to see Jimmy Smits in this like broken down, torn war movie. And then he was this glossy, almost soap opera-esque character in the prequels. And they both worked, but almost in a weird way, almost felt like Jimmy Smits was playing like sort of a soft reboot of his own character. Now with this, it's like, oh my God, it's the transition is unfolding in front of our eyes. And like when it goes to Alderaan, that looks like the prequels. When it's on Tatooine, it looks like the original trilogy, and more so than even the prequels on Tatooine. So like, it's remarkable how they're pulling this off. And now I'm even seeing elements of the sequel trilogy. I'm like, Deborah Chow and the creative team behind this is tapping in to virtually every movie. And it was episode 2 where he shows up at the I call it a train station. That's just my age. Where he's the transporting station where he's going to rescue Leia. That looked like Solo, the film Solo. And so they are really tapping into the aesthetic of the entire franchise. I love that. The underwater thing with Obi-Wan today with this little thing. It was like a harmonica.
Yeah, the respirator.
Yeah, obviously right out of the Phantom Menace. And so that's, I think, my favorite thing about this so far is how they are making this feel and look. And with this particular episode, then I'll shut up. When I watched it again, like all these beautiful things were coming out. Obviously, the Jedi tomb. Why did they have to show the little boy? Like, Master Anakin, they
I know, and he was in his helmet.
Dude, he was in his helmet. Brutal.
See, I want to get into that real quick. We do have another guest here.
Wait. Is it Aaron? Nope, he's not a guest. He's a troll and a traitor. You let this man on, and man, it's like toxicity. No, I love this guy, by the way. Hi, Aaron.
What's up, Mr.
Hi, Aaron.
Hey, Kitty, it's been a long time.
And you wouldn't answer my damn calls today.
Dude, you don't even know, man. My work schedule is like wild.
You don't answer my calls so you can get on the show. I'm a guest here. You hijacked this whole thing just to troll me.
I'm following you, Rick.
By the way, if you guys have ever listened to this is all we do is 2 hours of this shit. Sorry. Pardon my language.
No, you're good. I swear like a sailor. So no, Aaron, you've been on the show once before for The Mandalorian season 1. Y'all, Aaron is from the Fanboy Garage, which is one of the first podcasts that I was on actually when I was at Revenge of the Fans. So
That's
Aaron,
right.
welcome back.
Thank you, thank you. Appreciate the warm welcome. It's it's a good time to be back because Star Wars has never been better.
Yes, that is correct. We were just delving into spoiler thoughts. Do you have anything you want to
Yeah,
dive into?
yeah. So I mean, first of all, you know, despite some folks that follow me on Twitter, I'm not down on the show. I really enjoy the show because it's Star Wars, right? Like everything about Star Wars right now, as I said before, has never been better. Um, so I'm excited about all of the things that are happening. I heard Rick talking about the connective tissue between, you know, this really being the thread between the prequel trilogy and the OT, and I really love that as well. Um, you know, I think there are some things that I get really concerned about. It's mostly about continuity. Continuity is like a big thing for me. Um,
It is for me too. I have my whole bookshelf in canon order. So
yeah. So Katie,
Then you must really hate this franchise then.
yeah, well, I mean, there isn't. You know, the thing is, it like the premise of the show and the
Continuity.
idea of like what you know, leaving a very open ended statement between Vader and Luke, and creating that opportunity to bring Vader and Obi-Wan back together again is awesome, and I love that concept. Where I start to get a little concerned is specifically with some of the Leia stuff, but it's more about how they're prolonging the Leia stuff.
yeah.
Um, that troubles me a little bit, and that is my biggest issue, Rick, about this episode or season 2 talk that's being rumored and kind of swirling about, because I'm like, how much further can we go with this story in this particular timeline? Because it is very limited, and there's only so much that you can do. Like, I love the fact that they changed our minds, because I think I was going into the show like it's going to be a rescue Luke thing. It's going to be all about, you know, trying to, you know, maintain his relationship with Luke or figure out how to do. And I totally forgot about Leia, so I enjoyed that part of, and I'm still enjoying that part of the show. But I'll tell you, one of the coolest things for me when I watch this is it's Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi, because nobody does it better. I mean, he outdoes Alec Guinness. I know Alec Guinness is like, you know, everyone throws rose petals at the man's feet. He's our Obi-Wan Kenobi, but like, is he our
Man, just
Obi-Wan
stomping on his
Kenobi?
grave. Jeez, no, I'm joking.
Yeah, right. Damn, son.
But I mean,
Guys,
like, there's
dead.
a lot of dimension and complexity that Ewan McGregor gives to this role that I don't necessarily, you know, obviously he only had small cameos, Alec Guinness in the OT, so I like that. Vader is, gosh, he's freaking scary.
Oh, I love it.
Hey guys, the scene where he marches towards Riva, he's pissed.
Yeah.
I watched it. I was intimidated by him today.
No, he just
Like,
comes in and
just-
just like force chokes her and like throws her
And
up against the wall.
hearing the anger in his voice, I think
He
is
was
something that we
pissed.
haven't really seen in Vader before
Yeah.
in live action. So
Yeah.
that was what kind of caught me off guard, especially at 2:00 in the morning when I'm trying to watch this first thing. So that way I'm not
God
hitting.
bless you.
So Clay, if I may, hey, is that yes, absolutely, and I think that there's the scene in Rogue One where he's the most Vader that we see him, in a sense of just being menacing and murderous and whatnot. But that little moment today of marching the hallway, like it was the first time where he lost his cool, right? Until you get to maybe Return of the Jedi and towards the end, which is where his arc is anyway. But Vader's in control, right? For the most part.
He has no cool. That's the thing about this Vader right now. There is no cool. Like, even the way that he was in the previous episode going up against Obi-Wan and dragging his ass through the fire. Like, there is like oh no, I'm going to make you feel every bit of this.
Dude,
like,
when he's marching through the streets to showcase his power to Obi-Wan, and just starts like killing people for virtually no reason. Well,
Yeah.
there's a reason to show Obi-Wan. We've never seen Vader do that. He's killing innocent people. Like, set aside blowing up Alderaan. Obviously, that's
Yeah.
that.
There's no opposition there. That's Grand Moff Tarkin.
But to my knowledge, in live action, just kind of thinking about it, does he ever kill an innocent person? Right.
No.
I mean, even the least you could argue the guys in Rogue One, they're the rebellion and they're trying to stop him or trying to do things to. Right.
Yeah,
At least it's war. Right.
They're the opposition to him. That's what that's really it. But the citizens
perfectly stated.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
That's what I was trying to say.
Seen him do that. Yeah,
and that's exactly what I was trying to say. Thank you, Clay. The opposition. They're not. They're just there.
They're just standing there.
He doesn't give up.
No, but
right.
This is the Vader that, and Katie, you're gonna appreciate this. Lords of the Sith, great book. Like
that's what I was gonna say.
An amazing
it's pulling
book.
in comic references, it's pulling in book references, because this is the Vader that we get in the print versions.
Yeah.
And so like I've been looking for a scary Vader, and yes, at first I wasn't pleased. Clay, you remember this. I wasn't pleased by the fact Vader was included. Like it didn't make a lot of sense to me, but it's so cool to see an angry Vader who just doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like just taking out people to get what he wants. I mean, I think that's a true embodiment of a Sith power right there.
Yeah. And that all of these Inquisitors, regardless of their Force abilities, bow down and cower to him. I think I still find it a little hard to like Reva's characterization is fine. She serves a purpose in the show. If I were, all of the other Inquisitors are scared to death of Vader, but she seems to have some sort of like, I don't know, standing with him that I want to better understand. And, obviously it's being alluded to that she is, potentially that youngling that they first show in the first episode, and that her issues with Obi-Wan is for being abandoned and all of that, yada, yada, yada. And you can even see some of that in her torture scene with Leia, where that starts to bubble up. It's very
key in that scene, because
good.
She's comparing, like it's not like a literal comparison, but you can just feel Reva's hesitant to torture Leia because she was that youngling in the torture chair to get converted into an Inquisitor. And so she hesitates. And even in the conversations with Leia in like the pre-torture scenes where she's like, no one's coming for you, that's all related back from her experience as a youngling.
Yeah.
And it was so powerful. Moses Ingram's and the script there, I absolutely love that. It was really good.
Yeah, there was a line that she delivered around, it wasn't he abandoned you, it was the people. It was something along the lines of like the people that were supposed to protect him or something like that abandoned him and you. And I was like, damn, she's talking about like the entire Jedi Order failing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I'm trying to figure out too, is why does she have her beef so much so with Obi-Wan? Did he, in a sense, abandon her? I don't know. It's fascinating.
One thing that Katie kind of put out there, I think, with the first two episodes, when we reviewed those first two, Katie made a prediction that that Reva is possibly, again, like they're alluding to, was one of the Padawans in the very beginning of the episode. And I actually saw on a TikTok, somebody pointed out that there was children on this bridge that were running after this Master Jedi was, or Knight was protecting them. They ran off. And then it cuts to a scene in episode 3 where both Yoda and Obi-Wan are standing over children's dead bodies. And so they're like, oh, the kids didn't make it. If that's the case, then Reva might have been the only survivor of that small group. And a big thing about Clone Wars was when Obi-Wan put out that broadcast.
That's right.
Don't come back to the Jedi Temple.
Right, warning
warning people. Reva probably heard this and then was like, oh, so nobody's coming to save me. Yoda and Obi-Wan,
and that's the voice she heard. That Ooh, that's good. Can I ask a question? Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, go for it.
No, I was just going to ask a question, and forgive me, guys. I'm used to being a host and not a guest. And so I like to ask questions and sit back and watch everybody else fight.
Such a turd.
No, but my question is to the group is, how do you guys feel about the fact that Obi-Wan is being addressed as Obi-Wan to Leia now? That kind of surprised me a little bit. I was thinking, okay, so the video she makes about "You Serve My Father" in Clone Wars is kind of curt and matter of fact as that was. She's not connecting the dots that's been Obi-Wan, even like Luke, who lived on the same damn planet. But now that's gone, and obviously in A New Hope, when Luke rescues her, she's like, "Ben Kenobi, where is he?" You know, and obviously there's a history. And Aaron might have been you. Somebody said something about, well, this really kind of enhances or ties into her naming her son Ben. I'm like, whoa, that's amazing. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
But my quote defense to that, to the fandom menace that I slay. Kidding, Aaron. That's not supposed to be in my picture, by the way. I can't get rid of it. Is my question to you guys here is, so my defense to that was, okay, she doesn't know that that's Obi-Wan, so now she does. Any thoughts on that, just as a group here? Like, that surprised me a little bit.
She was introduced to him as Ben Kenobi.
Correct.
So I think that's going to stick more than anything. You meet family members that, are, for me being Hispanic, my tia Missy, that's my tia. She's my aunt. But I know, like, if I say, "Hey, Missy," like, that is weird to me. It feels like kind of like, I shouldn't have said that. So for Leia being introduced to Ben, going through all of this that she's going through, yeah, he was Master Obi-Wan at one point, but when I met him, he was Ben Kenobi.
Well, and and my wife's Hispanic, and so that story is so, it resonates with me. I love it. But Clay, what I was talking about specifically is, so obviously in the New Hope, right? She sends Kenobi the video. She's like, "Obi-Wan Kenobi, you served my father in the Clone Wars, and now we need some help more than ever, and help us, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're our only hope." And people are like, well, if she knew him, would she have said it like that? It would have been more like, "Hey, remember me? You saved my ass, and we're friends." And
but now I have a response to this.
Yeah, go for it. It's okay. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I mean, it's funny because you think of all the continuity things that bother the shit out of me.
But let me just say this, if you don't mind, because it ties in specifically to something you just said, and I'll forget. You talk about it not your aunts, and you can say it in a Spanish name, whatever. The thing about this is that she was told that he's dead as the name of Obi-Wan, so that's rather significant. Okay, that's all. Go ahead.
So and this I did not come up with on my own. This is Ryan Airy from Screen Crush. Screen Crush. Sorry, he said that, and this is a great point. She put this message on a droid, right? Mm-hmm. And that droid could have been intercepted by the Empire, right? Yep. So she had to use lack of formality in this because Rick's like, "I'm not buying it."
No.
Or does that make total sense?
I love it. It's like, this is the exact answer.
That's it. That's all I needed. Right.
That's it. I mean, like, and you think about it, because there is such formality in the way that she's delivering this message that if it were, and I mean, look, it could be anything now, because I'm sure that when they weren't thinking about this when they had her read that part. But it also explains the familiarity to it when she's in person with Luke and they say, "Oh, I'm here with Ben Kenobi." She's like, "Oh, Ben Kenobi," versus the very formal, "General Kenobi, you served my father during the Clone Wars, blah, 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 whatever."
Done.
Ben is like a code word that's like, "Hey, we're friendly. Like, I actually know this person.
That's my dude."
Kind of thing. So
Word.
That was going to be my answer.
Guy that saved my ass.
Yeah. I love it. Isn't it funny how we can twist ourselves from pretzels to justify anything as far as we love it so much? I love that.
Yeah, sure.
I did that with the Grand Inquisitor.
One thing that you have to remember is the same thing that Reva was asking. Oh shoot, what was her? The actor Varma. Are you a spy? Like, we're dealing with spies here. We're dealing with spies that need to have things encoded, that need to be spoken in tongues or whatever you want to talk about.
Great point.
And that is a perfect explanation. I didn't even think about that until you literally said it. I kind of had the same idea as
and Clay, that leads to one of my favorite lines in this episode where Reva says to her, like, I don't know if you're lying to me or for me.
Or for
I'm like,
me.
Yeah.
ooh, that's a great line. That's
Yeah,
a
that
damn
was,
good line.
it's well, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
this episode, the writing was very, very strong.
How many
yeah,
times have you seen it?
I've only seen it once because I'm like I'm waiting to get through it.
Did anybody else get like super pumped to see Obi-Wan, and it's a slow burn in his arc, to see him with his lightsaber, he even does his
I love
twirl,
how
like
you just said slow burn. Get out of here with that shit. Slow burn. What
it's
are
a
you,
s- it,
my
it's a
dude? I'm sorry. Wait a second. Pause. Because of the moment before we get
Katie,
into
I
that
told you not to
scene,
bring him on with me on. I told
dude.
you.
The
I
moment
listened to episodes with y'all on it together. I love it. Okay, I love it.
the moment before he gets into the water, he is reaching to move things and he is struggling to get whatever it was that was on it. It looked like a train
It's like
across
a
the table.
communicator thing on
Yeah.
the ship.
Whoa! What episode?
The same
This
episode.
episode.
The beginning of this one episode.
Okay,
Yeah.
right, correct.
And
But-
then he
but-
throws
but-
himself
but-
in the water. Was he rebaptized as a Jedi and then comes out and he's like, oh, I remember how to do this trick.
Dog,
Ah.
he's got the thing he's breathing on, bro. He's like
I
scuba
know. I
diving.
remember that.
Okay,
Well, I forgot what the
settle down.
Dioxis.
Settle down. Listen, he if you watch him in episode 3, he looks like a man he's not held a lightsaber in 20 years, much less, only 10. And then this one, like, he just slowly is becoming more comfortable in his shoes.
It does. I will go ahead and say this. It does remind me of the explanation of the eventual fight between him and Maul in Rebels. The explanation of that whole entire fight is he does 3 stances in one time before he actually fights Maul. And what it is he takes his young Padawan stance or his knight stance, then he does the old, Obi-Wan stance, and then he does his, his official OG, stance. And I think what this is, through this time of what you guys are talking about, arguing about whatever, is he is learning, and he's come to terms with the fact that, okay, the order isn't here anymore. I'm not going to be able to call in for backup and everything else. So he is learning from his prior mistakes. He's becoming a new man, essentially.
Absolutely, Clay. But in what you say, that go back to episode 3, he's super clumsy and uncomfortable with the lightsaber, and in this, he's still not in the prequel era, or even really, quite honestly,
he's struggling turning back the blaster bolts.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. And all of a sudden, with this, he makes a couple of cool moves, and then he's like, he just does this little twirl. And when I watched it, I was like, damn, that's like, he's like, I'm slowly coming back, dudes. Watch out. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it felt like. It felt like he was kind of getting his groove back. And I call that a slow burn, absolutely, because it's led to that, right? I think that's.
Oh, it's not because he got his whole, side burned or anything.
And he didn't spend much time.
He was in the back to tank. He's fine.
He's like, oh, that kind of burns. Let me just put a little wind on it.
Dang.
Put a little wind on it.
I think it's also like riding a bike. I mean, these forms we know are drilled into them as Padawans. Like, I'm reading one of the Legends book right now, and Anakin tells Ahsoka, hey, do 50 rounds of XYZ form. And so she's like, oh, fine. And so they constantly drill these forms. And so maybe it only takes a couple where he's like getting back into the swing of things and he remembers how to do it. One thing I wanted to ask, what do y'all think of the lightsabers physical effects versus the typical CGI effects?
I wanted to bring this up because I think the depiction of the lightsabers in Obi-Wan is quite possibly my favorite.
Yeah,
overall.
I enjoy them. It's something that that I shit all over Attack of the Clones on is that scene where Anakin is fighting Count Dooku, and you literally see the lights going past their faces, right?
Mhm.
But it's not like, it's very muted, right? Like, you could tell they were like, oh, here's a flashlight, like when they were filming it, like, oh, there goes, okay, that's Anakin's lightsaber, Christopher Lee. Okay, Hayden, that was Christopher Lee's. Okay, go. And this, because it's real light, very similar to the way that it was done in The Mandalorian with Ahsoka's lightsabers, which were real. The ambient light that shines off the faces and the specular highlights that you get from the real light actually getting into your cheeks, and that looks so good, where you can almost feel the heat Like you can almost like sense
Yeah.
the energy that's sitting within those things, and they're so bright. Like before, Rick, when you and I were talking before earlier, a couple of weeks ago when the show popped, we were talking about having to, close the shades in our house because these shows are
Wow.
shot so dark. But that's the thing that I appreciate. So even in the scene where, Vader ignites his lightsaber and you see Obi-Wan reluctantly light his, like just the contrast between the red and the blue and that real light. And I'm sure it's enhanced as well. I mean, we've got HDR, all that 4K, all that, so it looks really, really
Yeah.
good. But it's amazing. I dig it.
It's cool.
I dig
It
it.
does, I think, detract. Like I feel like they need to figure out how to shoot with it a little better, because I feel like some shots it overwhelms everything else in the scene and it just feels like a big blue blur.
Blue light. It's too bright.
So
See,
yeah,
I would have to disagree with you a little bit, and the only reason why is kind of the explanation of what I gave last episode is with the technology that we have today. When I was growing up, I had two different lightsabers. I had the all color lightsaber that retracted, which they still make today, and then the retractable ones that light up. And these other ones that lit up, they were kind of toned in the color of what you bought them. And then the basically large flashlight that was attached to this thing was supposed to be the hilt, gave it its ambient light. Nowadays, there is like 16 different websites that you can go to build a lightsaber. And there's 20,000 people on TikTok telling you which ones to buy and which ones not to buy. And apparently, Disney World is the worst place to get yours. And sorry, guys, the experience of building a lightsaber at Disney World is all I want. So I don't care how bad of a lightsaber it is.
Yeah, you pay like $500 for that experience.
And I've genuinely seen them. I literally have one on my bookmark right now, on my browser of the lightsaber that I want, and it makes noise. It has like just a massive amounts of power that it gives to the batteries and everything else. And this, I legitimately think that these are made for stunt sabers, and so the VFX that you're getting from it is very little. I think these are genuine made to give up that kind of light, because I've seen it before, and I
Yeah.
think that it gives a more quote unquote realistic, because we're in freaking
Yeah.
Star Wars here. It gives it a realistic take that we weren't able to see in that of the original series or original trilogy and the prequel trilogy. So
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think there was like the one scene which I thought was awesome. Is the scene where Leia's getting tortured, and then he ignites the lightsaber, so that bright blue comes out, and he strikes the guy down, and then he turns it off.
that was a
And he
really
moves
cool
quick,
scene.
like that is the quintessential sort of samurai type influence that belongs in Star Wars. Love that
Yeah.
stuff.
Did y'all feel Starkiller vibes from that? Has anyone seen that?
Yeah,
Like,
Rick, I know real quick, Rick, I know that you're gonna have to leave pretty soon, but how did you feel about the lightsaber and especially that scene that Aaron brought up was, when Leia is strapped into that chair and he comes out of nowhere, igniting the lightsaber, striking down, and then coming back from the other side.
Well, because I have the name that I have under my marquee today, I'll go on a little bit of a rant here. Those online that are complaining that this looks cheap and the effects suck. I mean, first of all, what franchise are you a part of? What is your barometer here exactly? Because really, the best special effects out of all of the films, anyway, by leaps and bounds, are the sequel trilogy. But the aesthetic of this, and I talked about this at the top of the show, how it's tying in quite literally every single live action incarnation of Star Wars, particularly the first two trilogies. So getting and honing in on the lightsaber. Look, when the first time I saw The Force Awakens and Kylo ignited his lightsaber, I was like, ooh, it's a very different deal they're going with this. It almost was like radiating off the base, right? Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like it wasn't it wasn't clean and whatnot.
Fractured.
Yeah, and please forget that noise in the background. I just something got a house full of kids. But But anyway, so with this, it's like, so what are they going to do with it? Because it's the technology's here, but it's still, it's timeline wise, it's post prequel, pre OT. Guys, it's freaking perfect. It's beautiful. And I'm hoping, and I'm dropping a bomb here, is that one thing I'm missing from the show so far that I hope we get, whether or not there's 2 episodes left or they do one more season. And my vote is do the next 2 episodes an hour plus and end it. Just because I don't want to be anticlimactic. But if we get flashback sequences with the Mace Windows of the world and whatnot, like, let's see that purple lightsaber with this technology, man. Let's right. Like I want to see that. That is something powerful.
You're
But
getting
no,
a
I think
flashback.
it's, oh man, it's beautiful.
You're not getting any flashbacks. You're not getting Padme. Hang it up.
Well,
Padme, I may not get. That's fine, but I think we're definitely going to see something with forgive that noise. I'm so sorry. We're definitely going to see something with Anakin and Obi-Wan in live action Clone War between 2 and 3. We have to, right? They didn't bring Hayden Christensen back just
telling you, you are getting your Hayden Christensen in Vader. And
that's what I was going to ask you guys, because I do have a question from our co-host. He asked just one question, and then we can see who wins on top here with this argument. So with 2 episodes left, are we going to see Hayden out of the Vader armor as Anakin, or are we just going to have him just in the suit? Maybe we might see him in the last fight of the series get his armor massively damaged, and we see his face again. What do we think? With 2 episodes, I'm going to go ahead and put my 2 cents in here. I don't think we're getting Clone Wars. I don't think we're getting a flashback. But what do you guys think?
So Clay, you think we'll never hear Hayden Christensen speak in this series? And by the way, and if we don't, maybe they're just setting him up for Ahsoka where he's going to be a Force ghost, and that's a given anyway, right? That's fine, but at least we saw him in the last episode where I don't know how we can interpret it, where he's Anakin, but is it Obi-Wan's imagination? Is it an actual like Force ghost from the future? Is it projection? Yeah. Right. But at least it was his face, right? Outside of just being this kind of mangled guy. But I will say I'm losing a little bit of, I don't want to say faith, or confidence, because that's a little bit of a dramatic word. But I am slipping away from my theory that we will see that, just by virtue of the fact that we haven't seen anything like that yet. They haven't filmed anything that represents the past. Anything that we've seen in the past has been very literal footage from the prequels. So I don't know. It's a great question. In a larger question, because I only have a couple of minutes, so I got to pick up my stepson from basketball here. But here's a larger question: Is this it? Are we done in 2 episodes, or is there another season? And maybe tying those 2 things in together is the only way I can even attempt to answer it.
I don't know if there's going to be another season. Me and Katie didn't even know of rumor talks of season 2 until literally right before this show started, when they had actually gone back in like March when these rumors started. I don't see there being a spot or a story for season 2. But I mean, I guess that's the whole thing with Star Wars nowadays. And ever since the creation of the novels is like, hey, we can pick this small amount of time or large amount of time and put a story in there.
The rumors, believe me, I can say this. All my years at BOF, I learned how to just take rumors with a grain of grain and grain, a grain and another grain of salt. But it's not even rumors for me. I don't really give a shit about that. For me personally, I'm more like just looking at it from a fan and an observer and a viewer going, are they going to wrap up this story in 2 episodes? And it's certainly not going to happen in a 36-minute episode, which really at the end of the day is really more like a 30-minute when you back out all the filler stuff. I don't know. Katie, what do you think? Do you think they're going to literally wrap this up and we're going to see Obi-Wan looking like Alec Guinness-esque, like watching Luke as an 18-year-old, ending in the way that Rogue One did? It backs right up to A New Hope. Or is there going to be some sort of, is this going to continue? This story going to continue? What do you think?
I think this is going to end. I don't think we're going to see the end of Leia until episode 6. I think Leia's going to stick around for the rest of it. And then Obi-Wan's going to communicate with Qui-Gon Jen, whether we see Liam Neeson or whether it's just a voice, we know Liam Neeson's coming back for Tales of the Jedi. So it's completely possible he could have done ADR for a shot in Obi-Wan Kenobi. But I think a potential way you continue this storyline is by doing that Darth Vader series that's been rumored so far and have it dive into Darth Vader and the Inquisitors. And you title that Darth Vader. It's a continuation, but it's not a season 2 for Obi-Wan Kenobi. Because that's how I've kind of envisioned it. Like when Disney first started, is pick a series and then if a character hits off, then run with that character. And I think people want to see more of this Darth Vader. So I think that's more likely what's going to happen. Aaron, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see more Vader in his own series. I think that there's some interesting stuff there.
But Aaron, do you think they're going to wrap up the story in 2 episodes?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, I really do. And you know, again,
And
this
just so
is why
for
I
the
get
record,
frustrated.
everybody, Aaron has been a hater of that concept of this from day one. Didn't want the movie.
No, I didn't want the movie. Didn't want the movie.
It's
I
true.
didn't
I
think
know.
the movie-
I
It's
remember
funny
this
because
conversation.
I did get into it with Tom. He's like, "Oh, this would have been better as a movie." I'm like, "You're crazy," because you
Tom-
think this is taking, this is going off the rails. Like they would have had to fit a movie into 2.5 hours.
Tom
and there's no
McClellan?
way- Yeah,
Tom
yeah, yeah.
McClellan. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love him. Listen, he's loved this series thus far. And just like
He
all
said
Star
it
Wars
was
fans,
meh.
one little episode might throw us off a little bit, and then we hate it.
Sure.
I mean, we are the worst fandom on the
We
planet.
are, because it means something
are.
to us in so many different ways. That's the thing.
I know, but it's funny.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is my challenge, right? Because as I watch this show, I'm like, okay, that's 4 episodes in. All right, now we only have 2 episodes left, and there's still a lot of questions I need answered. Like, why does Reva dislike Obi-Wan? Why is she so close to Vader? Will there be another fight? Will Qui-Gon show up? Who's gonna get Leia to Alderaan? Will Obi-Wan pick up the mantle? And obviously this is gonna happen, but like, are we gonna see Obi-Wan pick up the mantle and start really watching and fostering a relationship with Luke? Like,
Nope.
all of that stuff starts to spin in my head. You're right. That's unnecessary.
I want one scene with he and Luke that's real subtle, and because it makes more sense now watching the stuff with Leia and the stuff that she says in A New Hope about him. But that scene where they meet each other in A New Hope for the first time, Luke and Obi-Wan, if there's too much, that scene wouldn't make sense, right? But just real fast, a bullet point, because I got to leave here in like 8 minutes, or less than that for me personally. And thanks for having me on, by the way, guys. But yes, we're gonna get Qui-Gon. That was, dude, that's been established from the word go. It was a cliffhanger from a flashback, or not a flashback, but a scene from the prequels and prior to the first episode. Obviously, we're gonna get Leia back to Alderaan. We're gonna see her parents again and all that. And I still am holding out on some kind of thing with Natalie Portman, but that's just me. And what was your other one?
Oh, the fight scene between
Dude, of course.
I mean, no, I'm not saying
He's gonna kick his ass, dude.
I'm not saying that we're not going to get any of this. I'm saying that's a lot of stuff to fill up in two episodes. And those are those are the primary story beats and plot points that need to get hammered out. Plus, they like to sprinkle a little bit of bullshit. Hey, you know what I mean? Like, the droid is following. Oh my gosh. Can we just put Leia back on Alderaan and be done with it?
We do. And I love this episode. I
thought they were going to be done with her by this episode.
So did I.
But Clay, let me ask you this. I agree with you, sir. This is your show. Let me ask you this. I did too. They kind of doubled down. It worked. It was beautiful. But for me, dude, I am done. Like, end it there. It's great, but do not rescue her again. And any scene that's real loving between them, at this point won't work. Like, right? Do you feel the same way?
I think that they pushed the how do I say this? The cuteness of the relationship between the two. The very important story beats. Oh, you remind me of somebody I used to know.
Yeah, the ceiling. Yeah.
And the whole "Are you my father?" It was heartbreaking, seeing these scenes. But what more can you do to push that relationship when we know that after this, or right before or after A New Hope, she doesn't even get the chance to see him. You
Mhm.
know, she gets a
Mhm.
glimpse of him fighting Vader right before she walks onto the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
So,
It-
like,
I mean, look, and the one thing that I'll say too about the Leia thing, while I absolutely adore it, and I think it was totally overlooked. The continued use of her in the show diminishes the line from Obi-Wan to Luke in Return of the Jedi about his sister being hidden, and like that whole what he's as I'm thinking about this, thinking about what he says to her, your sister and you were hidden from the Emperor, right? And he's like, I have a sister, and then he pieces it together, right? Like all of those moments, that's like really important shit to Star Wars, right? And we're all like, she's showing signs of being force sensitive. No one isn't, and Reva's picking up on it too, right? So does she go to Vader? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's all these like little things. I'm like,
Well,
how are you going
yes,
to leave her, put
but
her on the ship, and send her
at,
ass back to Alderaan?
I got it, and yes, she does. But at the end of the day, she's still a Skywalker. And by the way, that if Carrie Fisher was still alive, unfortunately
No,
never
she
met her.
embodies her.
She like, it's like, what is this? A staring contest? Like, that's so dope.
It's so awesome.
that
The
was
sass,
God. I was like, damn,
the sass.
the
Yeah.
sass, dude. So
But I
Carrie
mean,
Fisher.
but again, I mean that to me is, she's like, oh, you're strong. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're really doing this right now. Like that's the stuff, man, that I'm like, we're starting to paint ourselves into little corners where, we're revealing that, she's developing, or she knows how to protect herself from force intrusion and all that stuff.
well,
Like,
I think that it is important for some of these story points to show that, in the sense of, okay, she is a Skywalker, so she is going to have these characteristics because, of course,
yep,
it's the Skywalker family.
for sure.
I spend way too much time on TikTok, but there's people talking about how the whole thing with even asking Obi-Wan if he was her father goes back to the idea of what he had just said before, and how he, has little snippets of when he was a child and before he was
Mhm.
taken away. And literally, Obi-Wan was the first male to hold her as a child
Mhm.
after birth. So it's just those moments there that she is
Didn't think about
literally
that.
seeing these moments
Didn't think
of,
about
like,
that.
yeah,
Yep.
it's just I hadn't even thought about it either until I saw it on TikTok.
Well,
Mm.
and that's just it.
Talked about it last week, Clay.
So Katie, let me
we didn't talk about that specifically though, did we?
so here's my parting
Well,
message,
Clay's
so to
drinking
speak,
on the job.
because I now I really go. I put on Twitter the other day, and I feel this way even more so today. And keep in mind, I've watched some stuff and going, oh, well, that's, and done it myself. I don't think that Lucasfilm under Disney is creating plot holes. I think they're filling them. And I think obviously we saw that with Rogue One, and with this, we're seeing it, and they're also taking advantage of ambiguity, right? They don't necessarily have to fill a plot hole per se, but they can at least say, well, that thing right there is ambiguous enough that we can run with it, and we can create an episode around that and create the scenario that no one interpreted. And really, at the end of the day, you go back to, I mean, you can't justify just anything and everything, but Obi-Wan himself says it's a certain truth from a certain point of view, or however, whatever it is verbatim.
Yeah, everything I told you was true from a certain
point of view. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that but anyway, but look, guys, I've got to run. I'm going to ask a favor. When I launch my new show, which should be going live here in the next month or so, I'd love all of you guys to come on and let's do an episode like this there and talk more about this. But one thing I'll say, my parting message, especially to my friend Aaron, who is unapologetic Less Jedi fan as I am and gets just as pissed off as I do about everybody that hates that movie because they wrote it in their head first. We're writing this show in our heads. We're doing that same thing.
Right.
We're doing that, right? And you're doing it. You're even a little worse than me, and you're a better dude than me, man. Like, I'm a dirtbag. You're a good person. Why am I handling this better than you are? Come on.
I don't have rose-colored glasses on. That's the
yeah,
difference.
but I don't either. I don't.
No, I just you know what it is. Where it all boils down to for me is the timeline thing that I've talked about at length. Which is we are stuck. We are stuck in a specific period of time
So what?
for Star. See, like
So
that's the
what?
thing. Like, yeah,
So
it's all
what?
that's all gravy, and like I said, I'll take
So
it for what it's
what?
worth. But
Well, first of
Star
all,
Wars is bigger than that, man.
is it?
It is
Why does it have to be bigger than that when the whole
because
thing is
it's
about
called
the
Star
Skywalkers?
Wars.
Yeah,
No,
it
it's
is about the
not. It's called
Skywalkers.
Star Wars,
It's a soap
The
opera about a father,
Skywalker
son.
saga is about the Skywalkers.
That's
and
right.
it's
And by the
over.
way, so far, and I'm halfway trolling you, obviously, and I love you,
Yeah,
but in all seriousness, no. But first of all, they have plans to branch out, which is great.
I know.
But at the
Looking
same
forward to
time,
it.
like if it's good, I don't give a damn. And quite frankly, so far, and this could run its course with the exception of Solo, which I don't piss anybody's Cheerios. If you like the movie, God bless you. It didn't work for me. But other than Solo, everything so far under Lucasfilm and that Filoni and Favreau and company are doing is making it's like a Rogue One somehow made a New Hope better. Like that movie needed any assistance. It's a better movie because of Rogue One. The prequels are already better to me because of this show. Like that is magic. And so if they can continue to do that, like who cares, right? But it will run its course. But anyway, Aaron, I love you. Clay, Katie, thanks for having me on the show. It was such an honor. I hate to run.
Lots of fun. Lots of fun.
Come back anytime.
I'm on kid duty. I got to go grab somebody from basketball practice. But
Rick, I'll call you tomorrow.
if I say that, if I leave here was saying "May the Force be with you," am I just the cheesiest person in podcast history?
It's the
already
one thing
cheesy.
that we end the podcast with, so you're good.
May the Force be with you. Bye,
See you
guys.
later.
Bye, Rick.
Bye-bye.
Rick, later, man.
So
Now-
Nathan has been in the chat, and I gotta acknowledge Nathan. What do you think about Return of the Jedi then? He said, sorry, 30 seconds old, you don't remember that. They don't take kids till they're 2, which you could have flashes. Padme died 2 minutes after Leia was born.
Yeah.
So
So this is where Rick's theory of like the Padme flashbacks like come in, because he thinks, and he's not the only one that says this, that in Obi-Wan's in the moment where he's departing Leia, he gives her through the Force a moment to see her mother through the Force. And that is a very possible thing to happen.
Yeah.
especially I think since you have so many deleted scenes from Revenge of the Sith, even if you don't get Natalie Portman back specifically, you just pass on one of those
Sure.
scenes and recanonize that, because there were so many good scenes that got cut from that movie for
Right.
Natalie Portman. Is perfect
Yeah.
opportunity.
Or
That's a
even
great
where
thought.
she like names her, where she's holding her and she's like Leia. Yeah, I mean, look, we'll see. That's like less important to me. I'm not getting hung up on any of that stuff, really.
So I have a troll question. And I was going to ask Rick this because he reminded me when he brought out the Grogu statue. Should we have seen Grogu in Fortress Inquisitorius in one of those amber prisons?
So are those people dead?
That's what I was trying to. That's when I said I wanted to go back to this. I don't remember seeing anything like this in any other visual medium of Star Wars.
No, I've never seen it either.
I don't remember seeing it in
Because Fallen Order doesn't have them either, right?
No. The only thing that Fallen Order has, there's a moment in the game. Minor spoilers for Katie because she hasn't finished it yet. I'm always gonna
Fallen Order. Oh my gosh!
But
I couldn't do it. I'm gonna watch the cutscenes at some point.
All right.
There's a moment where you get into this like Force, like I guess like it's kind of like a psychedelic trip where he is like teaching Padawan, and then it goes all awry, and then like you start to see kids like getting killed by stormtroopers and then tortured, and it reminded me of this a whole lot. And then after that scene, you're in this fortress with the Inquisitors, and you're kind of it's still a part of the whole psychedelic trip or whatever.
Yeah,
but I don't remember seeing these like pods or whatever.
And in the game, he's actually in that base, and he duels I don't. You're not gonna finish this game.
You're good. I don't care.
He duels Vader in the same
Vader.
hallway
Yeah.
underwater. That like corridor that Obi-Wan cracked the water, and Vader does the same thing. Because it starts to flood, and then Vader stops the water from rushing him with the Force. So there's and actually the torture chamber is the same from the game as well.
Mhm.
The tomb thing was weird on for a couple of different reasons. Because one, I didn't know if they were dead or if they were like in some sort of stasis.
Mhm.
For maybe Palps to come by and just suck the Force life out of them or something
Right?
like
That's
that.
that's what I was
Cloning.
thinking.
Yeah, the cloning process. But the thing too that like the youngling with the headpiece thing on, I
The
thought was
helmet, I don't
odd.
understand.
I was like, wouldn't that have fallen off of you?
Yeah.
And why? And when? At one point did they grab you and put you there? Because now it's been years since Order 66, and like, were there Inquisitors just? See, like that's the part that I started to get a little like trip. I mean, did they just grab you and then like throw you up in that amber thing? Like, I
Like,
don't know.
Yeah.
because in my mind, before the Inquisitors, Vader was doing all of this himself. He was going after the Jedi and everything else. That's what they
Mhm.
that's what they show in the comics. And then the Inquisitors were introduced as his little puppets, so that way, of
Right.
course,
His
he
minions.
wouldn't have to do anything, and they wouldn't be considered Sith because of the rule of two, of course.
Right.
And I don't really understand what the significance of these pods were.
Right.
Because it's very traumatic. Don't get me wrong. When Obi-Wan goes in there, he sees the very first person in that
Ferris
in that.
Nube.
Okay, so it was somebody we were supposed to know.
Yeah. There's some Clone
That's the only
Wars.
one we really know.
Yeah, there's some Clone Wars Jedi. What one? One in particular, the one that looks like a camel.
He's the person who helps Ahsoka find her lightsaber after she
That's
loses
right.
on Coruscant.
That's right.
Oh,
And he's made
I need to
appearances
go
in the
back
High
and watch
Republic.
those. I need to go back and watch those then, because I did not recognize him at all. Again, it was probably way too early in the morning, me staying up so late and then trying to watch it. I'm gonna have to go watch that episode again. But it was traumatic. I understand what they were doing with that scene for Obi-Wan's sake, but for me as a audience member, I just don't know what it was supposed to be.
Yeah, going back to your original question about whether or not Grogu should have been in there, no.
Mhm.
I'm of the mind that Quinlan Voss is the one who got him off and smuggled him out and kept him in his pod, and led him through the path and dropped him somewhere else. That's sort of where I'm at, because who knows? I mean, because it's years now after he's been in his pod. Like, that's the other piece of the missing puzzle, right? It's like, where's Grogu? Like, who took Grogu?
That's
And
where
how
I
are
was
we gonna?
like, okay, they're gonna have to connect it at some point. But in regards to if they're alive or dead, I made a reference at the beginning to, like, this is calling back to the Luminara trap that is set for Kanan and Ezra in Rebels. She's in a very similar pod type situation. Like, we see like an amber look
Oh,
in that episode.
Okay. For a second, you kind of
She
went
was
out a
dead
little
in
bit.
that case.
Yeah, she was.
Sorry.
Right. She was dead, and because the Force wasn't like she was sucked. Something was sucked out of her or something like that. Like,
Which is where I'm thinking maybe in this case, like you said, Aaron, they're actually alive and Palpatine's like saving them, whether it's for practicing his cloning or for sucking the Force out of them, like he does with Rey and Kylo.
yeah,
Um, I think anything's possible, and we know Grogu was held by the Empire at some point. So even if Quinlan got him out on the path, he could have still ended up here at some point. And we know he was being used for a cloning process.
right.
So
Because of his midichlorian count.
mhm.
Yeah, it's
I think
I think that's the fun part of the Easter eggs that are kind of dropped, because I do think they create new avenues for connective tissues between some of the other shows. Like, I was like, at the start of the show, I was half convinced, mostly convinced, that we would see a younger Han Solo, at some
I
point.
was like, when the pilot died in the last episode, I was like, so who wants to make bets that Han and Chewie are gonna show up?
Yeah, yeah,
Because hey, we need to hire a pilot.
yeah. But what that also means too is that this is the birth of the resistance, or the rebellion, really, because
Yeah.
it's normal people who are now putting up the fight. When they enter and she says, you thought you weren't soldiers, or something to that effect. It's like, oh yeah, this is starting. This is the
Yeah.
spark.
Yep.
And this
Which
is
is why I think
technically
maybe we'll see Tala and O'Shea in Andor at some
I was gonna
point.
say this is technically before Andor. So this is kind of the start where you're really gonna see the actual birth of it in Andor, which I think is gonna be,
Yeah,
very, very
because
exhilarating.
they're gonna have to connect with Bail Organa.
Mhm.
They're gonna be the
And
crew
I
that
think
gets
Bail's gonna
her to
get them
Alderaan.
started. Bail's gonna get them started when they take Leia
Yeah,
to Alderaan.
it'd be
Because
great if
Obi-Wan can't go to Alderaan.
that's right. It would be great to see them, with Mon Mothma, that whole crew, getting it all started. Oh man, that chef's kiss good when you start doing stuff like that for me.
We're
Alright.
kind of on the same page, Aaron, in the sense of like how continuity is kind of everything for us. Like Katie said with her books, I'm kind of getting into the books as well.
Yeah,
Starting off with the High Republic, but really jumping into the Legends and more of the canonic, like OG trilogy era books as well. So we're right there. Like for me, if you give me something that legitimately I can take from Obi-Wan and then immediately connect to another movie, like that is genius to me. And so
yeah,
I get those moments for sure.
yeah, yeah. It's like, for me, that's the stuff that gets me like super jazzed about Star Wars, and it's also the nuance, and it's one of the reasons why I'm an unapologetic lover of The Last Jedi, because there's just so much nuance in there. There's a lot of stuff baked in. I think, to Rick's point earlier about how these shows are enriching the experiences with some of the cinematic stuff that's come out, it's 100% true. It's 100% accurate. I mean, one of the first things I said when we first see Obi-Wan is, oh, so I guess Luke wasn't the only one who cut himself off from the Force. So
We said the same thing.
yeah, and it's an interesting plot twist in that, Obi-Wan is also dealing with loss and coming to terms with failure, very much so the way Luke was in The Last Jedi, through the flashbacks and the relationship he had with his nephew, all of that stuff. So
And with the fact that the comics had, like, I'm getting into the 2015 run of Star Wars comics started by Jason Aaron, like
mm,
he's delving into Obi-Wan's journal in that, like that's left for Luke. So realistically we could see that, especially with Shadow of the Sith coming out, that's what he's taking from that. Like he's
yeah,
learning lessons and going, crap, I failed. This is what Obi-Wan did. I might as well do it too.
yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
I think that's everything. This was a short episode, y'all. It was 38 minutes. Or yeah, I think it was 38 minutes. And about 30 without credits. So I definitely think we're going to get a Jabim fight next episode. Especially with the tracker on Lola. I think that's what's coming next, and this will probably be the fight that we get with Vader, because what I'm curious about is how is Obi-Wan going to get back to Tatooine knowing he's the most wanted man in the galaxy right now without getting spotted. So
Right.
I think that the answer is kind of obvious, but I really am interested in how they do it. Uh, when it comes to the story of Rebels and going into the trilogy, the original trilogy, there is no third sister. So I think that tells a lot for what these next two
Yeah.
episodes might be showing. So I'm really, really interested in that. But Aaron, before we get out of here, why don't you tell everybody, the audience, listeners, how people can follow you, plug your shows, all of that
Sure.
stuff.
Yeah. So as Katie mentioned, I'm the co-host of the Fanboy Garage, and you can find us on Twitter and all other social medias at the Fanboy Garage. And if you want to follow me specifically, I am Aaron Vrola, also known as AA Ron Speaks. That is A_A_Ron Speaks. And so you can just follow me there or on Instagram too.
Awesome.
Very, very nice. You can always find me at Fanboy Clay on Twitter. Of course, go to the bio there. You can find the link tree to all the shows that I host, that including DC Alliance, Batman News Weekly, Ranger Alliance, and of course, right here on Star Wars Alliance.
And y'all can find me on Twitter and Instagram. It's at Slice of Katie. My other show on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Podcast Network is, as Clay said at the beginning, Slice of Film, and that's on Twitter. It's at Slice of Film 1. Next episode will be Jurassic World, and I think actually after that it's going to be the Elvis biopic that's coming out with the scheduling. So, and Clay will be on that episode. So those are the
Yeah.
next two shows for that. Star Wars Alliance you can find on Twitter and Instagram. It's at Star Wars Alliance without the A in the wars. Very important. Don't forget it. As always, y'all, we really appreciate any of y'all who have been here watching. We hope you have a great day or night, whatever time of day you've been here, and we will see y'all next time. May the Force be with you.